welcome to my channel, The Reclusive Crafter. My name is Dawn. Today we are going to be going through the weekly challenge from Scrimpingmommy. This is the second challenge that she's done, and this is week 7. And what we do is we work off prompts that she gives. There's sentiments that we can add if we wish to. And then there's a colour palette to choose, and the basic ruling is that you have to use the first prompt, and then you can use any of the other prompts that you choose. So today's theme is going to be vintage. So I have already made a start, but I'm going to now walk you through a second one. I just wanted to put one together before I actually showed you guys what I was doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you in the meantime would like to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd love to have you all on board, and also if you'd like to share and give me a thumbs up if you like what you see. I'll show you what I've been up to. So this is the completion of the challenge that she did, and what I've done is just so that you can see. So it was vintage, so the vintage part is not only the image that I've used, but this is actually a services postal envelope. And if I just show you what they're actually like, I got a box full of some really old stuff at a car boot, a little bit like a garage sale, I think, if you're in the States, and in it came a lot of these little really old envelopes, which was used back in the war. And as you can, I don't know if you can see that, but that's actually 1943 that's dated. So these are really old envelopes, and some of them are really quite flimsy as well. So what I've done is I have put some cardstock, glued inside some cardstock to give them a little bit of rigidity so that they don't deteriorate anymore. And I've cut out an image and a little flower to add in there. And then on the inside I've just added a couple of little postcards to go with the vintage theme, and that's just backed onto a little postcard there for writing space. And then this is literally just a postcard, so there's just a little bit of extra ephemera there, so that if you wanted to pop this into a journal, you've got some writing space there to be able to do so. And because these are so flimsy, I've put in a piece of cardstock, and I've allowed a thumb hole so that you can get to the postcards relatively easy. And then I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see, but I've also put a secondary piece of card in there on the back so that you can actually still use this as a pocket in your journal. So these now slip very easily in there without any concerns about tearing the envelope or making the envelope any worse than it actually was. And then I've made a hidden little paper clip with the prompt of the flowers, and then that, so that you don't have to glue this on, so that it can act as a freestanding pocket. That's a little invisible paper clip that just clips onto the side there, so that you can either pop it onto a journal page, either that way, or you can pop it that way. It's entirely up to you what you do it. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So I've got everything prepared because I wasn't really sure how long this would all take to do. So some of the envelopes are a little bit worse than others. So this one is slightly different to this one in that it's a different colour, it's a different style, but effectively it's all used in the same way. And this one is actually dated. I don't know if you can see that. It's the 11th of July or 11th of June, 1916. So that one's even older, and it's not in as good repair as this one. So I'm just going to do a little bit of damage control on this one. So if I can just find my glue book, there it is, it's under everything else. There we go. So I am going to just distress this bit of card because I don't really want it being white. So I'm just going to add some distress on this all the way over, because this is going to be going into the back of the card, oh sorry, into the back of the envelope, but it's going to be showing on this bit here. So I really want to give this a really good distressing so that it's not openly obvious that it's a brand new piece of card. I'm sure I could have found some vintage cards somewhere, but it's just as easy, rather than rooting through everything, to be able to do this. I'm sorry if you've got noise from outside, but it is a boiling hot day. I would normally close the window when I'm videoing, but yeah, it's way too hot to do that, so we're just going to have to go with the flow and put up with all the noises out there. And I live not far from an airfield, so yeah, we do get planes over from time to time. It's not a commercial airfield, but we do get a little bit of noise. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that, and what I want to do is I want to tuck that in there. I think I'm going to use that side to face upwards, and I'm going to tuck this in, and it was easier to get in than I anticipated it actually would be. I did with the other one, I did glue the whole of the back, but there's going to be a piece of this that I really don't want to glue because it's going to show in that section there. So I'm just trying to just go round the bit that hopefully, so to pop that in, all I did was I splayed my fingers out like so, and then popped that, just slipped that in there. I'm not going to lie, the other one went in a little bit easier, but it's always the same, isn't it? When you're doing something on camera, it never quite works out how you want it to. Okay, that's not too bad. Alright, now I'm going to just try and encourage these little bits that are torn just to stick down as well. Now I've actually glued, oh, I'm all sticky. I've actually glued more than that than was necessary to do so. So I'm just going to wipe some of the excess off. And I can always go over it and give it a little bit more of an inking if I feel it's needed. Okay, I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on there. That's it. Okay, I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I'm just going to go over that. And when that glue dries off, that won't cause any issue at all. So that's the back card done there. And as you can see, the front is still very flimsy, and this is all quite torn and tattered. So with the other card that I've got, I'm just going to mark up to where I want to glue, because I don't want to glue the top part of that, because that's the bit that's going to be standing out. And the main reason why I've stood the card out more so than probably is needed is because I wanted the cards to be, or the inserts to be, a little bit wider for the to give you a decent sized journal card, and it also I think looks nice, and it marries in with the colouring of the prompt as well. I'm just going to glue this bit down. I hope you're all having a nice weekend. I'm actually filming this on the weekend, but my plan is to pop this out to you lot on Wednesday, but I'm just enjoying my last weekend now before I need to go back to work after my break. So I'm making the most of it, and I'm trying to get as much done as I possibly can. I'm just going to slip that one in there, and that went in very nicely. Just press that down. I'm just going to give my hands a bit of a wipe because they are really sticky. Just give that a wipe. hand off. That feels better. Okay. I'm just going to check that we are filming, and we are. That's always a bonus. And now what I'm going to do is these little bits, I don't want to straighten these up because I think that adds to the interest of the envelope. So I'm just going to stick these down so they're not flapping in the breeze to cause any more damage to the envelope. But you can still see that it is a fold, and it's not going to get any worse. So that's the basic part of the envelope now completed. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit more, but I'm just going to put a little bit more distress ink over that as well. And I'm just going to get the glue and just glue that little section down there so that it doesn't buckle up. And that's that bit done. And now we are going to put the designs on. So slightly different design on this one. I've gone for a gentleman instead of the lady. And with it being a different envelope as well, the positioning is going to be slightly different. So I want him there because I'm trying not to lose too much of the actual design of the envelope. And then the sorry, I've lost my train of thought. The dog was just barking. I'm just wondering what she's barking at. The paperclip will then sit on there, and this is, again, it's going to be a slightly different paperclip. So I want the poppy, and I've chosen poppies purely because these are wartime envelopes, and the poppies I thought were a nice nod to the forces. That looks nice there. I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to glue that down. So that was my thought process anyway behind the poppies, in that they are wartime envelopes. And the poppies, just give a nod to that November the 11th. I think that's about in the right place. Can manoeuvre it over a little bit. There. Got the name covered over there, so I'm not so happy with that actually. Let me take that off of there before that dries. Let me get my positioning right. Let me move that one out of the way. So that one wants to go there. I thought I had this planned out, but do you know what? I'm going to go with that anyway. There we go. Yeah, that one will work. Okay. And then I'm just going to glue my little man on. I have tidied up my work area because it doesn't normally look like this, specifically for this. Hope you're very pleased with me. And then we're going to glue that little man on there. I'm just going to move him over just slightly. That one over there, that one over there. Move that down a little bit, that's better. This is the beauty of using the glue stick, of course. It does give you that little element of being able to manoeuvre things around if you're not quite happy with things. So that's the design done on there, so I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to distress around the edge. Just give it a little bit of colour around the edging. And then just Don't really see it on the red card there, but if I could just give that a little bit of extra there. It's so warm, I am absolutely melting, so I'm just hoping that we're not going to be keeping you all for too long. There we go, that looks good. Okay, so that's the main part of that done. What I have done as well is I have prepared a little card to go in the back in the same theme as the other envelope I did, with all the colorations that is required of the prompt that you can see there. And then the postcard, I think I'm just going to have to trim that just slightly, just on the edges, so that that fits in. And the theme is obviously a vintage theme, so the postcard goes in there. It sounds like the Air Force are out in force today, buzzing around the skies. Let's have a look and see if that fits in now. Okay, that should work in there now, and it does. So that's nice. So those can be tucked in there. Little old lady, she can go in there. So those are the inserts done. Very, very easy to do. So that's good. I'm just gonna, that's all glued down as well as it can be. I might put a little bit of tape across there, maybe a little bit of vintage tape. I'll have a look and see what I've got shortly, just to repair that corner a little bit. I think might be able to get a little bit of glue in that corner there, just to give that a little bit more stability, which is nice. And now I'm just going to do the little paper clip, which is very, very simple to do. So to do an invisible paper clip, there's lots of different techniques for doing these. You're probably all going to be shouting at the screen and asking me what the heck I'm doing, because it's a lot easier than I'm actually making it. I've got two pieces of card cut, one slightly smaller than the other. I am going to put the paper clip over the top of one. And now I am going to glue this all over. Put quite a little bit of glue on the actual paper clip itself so that it doesn't move around. And this bit of card is a lot bigger than I actually need. I'm going to be cutting around it because I want it to be the sort of shape of the actual flower that I'm using. And then I'm going to pop that in there and give it a good press down. I'm using Fabri-Tac for this because it grips really well, and it dries relatively quickly as well, which makes life a little bit easier. And then we're gonna just glue this one together. Again, I'm not too bothered about getting too close to the edges because these are going to be cut down. Probably out of shot there. I'll just stuck my fingers straight in that. Nice. Okay, now I'm just going to press that down there and just give it a couple of seconds just to take. And as you can see, nothing's really lined up. I'm not really too bothered about that at the moment, because the principle is that the design is going to go on there and we're going to be cutting around that. I just want to make sure that the design goes over the paper clip itself, so that I don't end up trying to cut through the paper clip. Okay, just pop glue top back on there. I don't need that for the moment. And we're just going to use a little bit of art glitter glue just to just to stick this one down. I didn't want to talk then because of that plane going overhead. I think it's the red arrows out there practicing, to be fair. They've been buzzing around all week, probably because it's such good weather for them to be able to get out and play. Okay, just pop that down. Clean my fingers up. Okay, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a little bit of fussy cutting around this. I want to leave a little bit of the top there, obviously so it doesn't fall to pieces. And then we're just going to cut round this. I did use a thicker cardstock on the other one, and it did actually make it quite difficult, so I decided to try and make my life a little bit easier and use a slightly thinner cardstock on this one. Just hoping I'm going to be able to cut round it well enough. Because the best laid plans and all. Yes, so I am back at work on Monday, not going to lie, not really looking forward to that very much. I'd much rather be here doing what I do in my craft room, but unfortunately, needs must. And you have to go and earn pennies to be able to buy me my craft supplies. I had a nice visit yesterday from my daughter and my son and my two granddaughters. They come to see me, which was nice. Maybe you guys can tell me what you're up to and what you enjoy doing. This is just taking a little while, but I just wanted you to see the principle of the idea. And I'm sorry when I go quiet, and that sounds like they're heading round again. Oh, maybe not. I thought it sounded like they were coming back round again. This one is a little bit of a more intricate design to do than the other one. It might make more sense for me to do that one to show you, but never mind, we love a challenge. There we go. Get in there. Concentrating away here. This is really hard, but hopefully worth it once it's done. There we go, got it out. Might just go in with the craft knife and just try and trim that piece down a little bit better. It's quite a challenge when you're trying to cut through 4 pieces of cardstock all at the same time, and this is why I say you guys probably know better ways of doing this, but we all have our little ways, and yeah, I'm not quite sure I've seen any other way of doing this to be able to have the shape that you're looking for. if you're bored with now watching this, please feel free to fast forward to the next little bit. I won't be offended in the slightest. My channel is a relatively new channel. I say relatively new, it is a new channel, and I'm looking to build up my subscribers. So even if you don't want to subscribe yourself, if you know anybody that is into crafting and might be interested in the little bits and pieces that I show you on here, if you could share the videos with them, that would be a huge help as well. I'd be very grateful for that. That's lovely. I've got one of my dogs in here with me now, and the other one's downstairs. Just got to trim that up to there because I want to leave enough there for the paperclip not to pop through, and to give that enough of a base. Right, I'm just going to see if I can pop my glue back on there first. I'm just going to see if I can just take that little bit out there any better than it is. Sorry if my head was just in shot, I never even gave that a thought. Just trying to see what I'm doing here. I think that's a bit better than it was. We will go back in with the distress ink shortly as well, just to cover up any little nicks and things that might be on there. I'm not worried too much about the back side because I'm going to be sticking the other part of the flower on there. Okay, so that's the main part of that cut out. So as you can see there, that's that bit done. I'm just going to get rid of all these little scrappy bits. This probably wasn't the best design to pick for a card, but I wanted this design because again it's the poppies, and I just thought that that was a relevant nod to the services. So I'm just going to stick this one down, and then we're just going to trim up the little bits that don't quite match. If you'd like to comment as well on any crafting things that you would like to see, I do lots of different type of crafting. I have mentioned it previously, so if there's anything in particular that you like, I'm happy to have a look at it and see if I can do anything that might be of interest to you as well. Okay, so that's not too bad. I'm going to just trim that a little bit more there. These are reversed images, so it should work on both sides. I'm not quite sure where that just pinged to, but hey ho. No doubt the vacuum cleaner will find it. I'm just going to trim that round there. That's that bit done, that's nice. And then I'm going to trim that off there and trim that round there. Maybe. Or maybe I'll use the knife. Let's see what we can do with this. That's better. Just got another couple of little bits to do around here. This has been a lot more fiddly than I anticipated it would be. I think it is literally just because of the weight of the cardstock that I've used. But I wanted to use something quite substantial with it being a paper clip, to give it a little bit of protection. So just trim that little bit off there. And I'm just going to trim that little bit there. And then once it all dries properly, so probably would have been better to leave it to dry a little bit, but never mind. We can work with it. There we go. Okay, I think I'm quite happy with that. Might just take that little bit off there. Oh, that's proving to be a bit more difficult than I want it to be. There we go. Okay, so that's that little bit done. Just that's it. Just stick that down a little bit there. Okay, and I'm just going to just get all my little bits out of the way. I'm just going to pop a little bit more, close the glues up. That's that done, and I'm just going to pop a little bit more of the distress around there, just where I've trimmed just little white edges that I can see popping through. And I want it to really have that vintage look, so I'm quite happy to give it a really good going over with the inks. Just trim some of that excess paper off there, I think. And that is just paper, so that's just a little clip there. Just pop the ink back down there. And again, I really don't mind that it's looking a little bit distressed, because the whole point of this is that it's going to be vintage, so you wouldn't expect it to be pristine anyway. So I think it all adds to the character of what we're trying to achieve, or what I'm trying to achieve. There we go. And then that can now either clip on the top. Let me just open that up a little bit. Got shaky hands. Oh, I can't open it. Has it glued itself together? There we go. Yeah, it did a little bit. There we go, that's better. Okay, and you can either glue it, you know you can't, you can either pin that on the top, and again that can just go onto the top of a piece of journal paper or journal page, and you can literally pop it wherever you want to, so it can either fit on the top, or if you prefer it can go across the side. It's entirely up to you where you put it. Personally, I like it better on the top, just with the length of it. I think it looks nicer on the top. And that's it. So that is the challenge for this week all done. So there we go. So the challenge was vintage photo layers, vintage writing and adder flower. Well, there's vintage writing in here for sure. The vintage comes from the envelopes themselves. The inserts I've tried to give a vintage theme to. So each of the inserts have got a little lady and the vintage postcard. There we go, and vintage postcard. And yeah, I think that's really nice. I'm very happy with that. So thank you very much for joining me again today. If you come back and see me again, we'll have a few more ideas for you. So there we go, all done. Thank you very much for your time today.